Miss Vaughn here, and I'm tuning in with you from my in-home studio, and I'm working with my 4th and 5th graders. You guys are going to be doing something really exciting this week. I have decided to do these wonderful, beautiful mandalas. And I want you guys to look very carefully because it's not just a gorgeous mandala, obviously. It is a color wheel. And so this is going to be something that we're going to use for the rest of the year. But I wanted you to have something really interesting and cool that you could also hang up in your room or on your fridge to help you when we get deeper into color theory and color relationships a little bit later on. And all right, guys, today you're gonna need a white piece of paper that you can see through if you put it against a window. So before you start creating, I would take your piece of paper and put it up against some light to see if you can see through it, okay? You're gonna take something round, so maybe a plate or a bowl. I've got one of my favorite bowls. This is an antique at this point. It's my tulip Fire King bowls that I use constantly. And I go over this in class, but if you're gonna be tracing something, you wanna push it towards the edge of your paper because you never know what creations can be made with your scrap paper, or sometimes I often use scrap paper as like a testing sheet for other things that we're gonna do. So just make sure you push it towards the edge. You're gonna need a pair of scissors today, a pencil, a Sharpie, or a black marker works as well. I would highly advise you to use pencil first, just in case we make a mistake, we can fix it before we make it permanent, okay? So I'm gonna, you know what, this is a really nice bowl. Maybe I'm gonna take my own advice. I'm gonna use a pencil first. So you're gonna take your pencil and you're gonna trace all the way around your round object. And after you trace it, I won't need this anymore, so I'm gonna put it away. And I'm gonna have you cut it out. So here is my circle, and we're going to divide it up today into 12 sections. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is for you to fold it in half like a taco. So I would connect your edges for me and pinch your top, and I would pinch your bottom. I go towards that middle section and pinch here, and that way it starts your creases, and then you just have to connect the dots at this point. And make sure that that's a really crisp crease that you're making. Maybe use the edge of your scissors to make sure that that crease is easily seen. Okay? I'm gonna draw my creases as I draw them so that they're easy to see. And when we start dissecting this even more, it becomes more even. I typically will fold the paper and hold one side up 90 degrees and push the edge of my pencil into that corner, and then voila, a beautiful little circle. Then we're gonna use this line as a marking point. So I'm gonna have this end of this line touch this end of the same line when I fold it in half like a taco. It almost like you want to fold it on top of itself. Make that your point. Push down. Take it to the edge. Push it down. And then I'm going to turn it so it's a little bit easier. And then I'm going to also press down this edge. Then it's that connect the dot, which I said earlier. Make this crease really nice and clean. Take your pencil to the edge of your paper, and I just want you to create that line. So now we have 4 segments, And if you do the math, how many sections do I need in each piece to get 12? Let's do some math, shall we? 2, 4, 6, 8. That's not 12. How many more do I need? Right, 4. I need 4 more, and there's 4 more sections. So 2 plus 1 equals 3. 3, 6, 9, 12. Now you know how a brain works, or an artist's brain. Gosh, Miss Vaughn. Anyways, can't you tell I teach art, guys? Math isn't my favorite. Or let me just say it doesn't come easy. All right, so here are my 4 sections. And think about a cheesecake or a cake that comes pre-cut sometimes. You want to sort of think about where those even sections are going to be folded. Okay? So I'm going to fold one of these back in half, shall we? And then I'm going to fold the other piece. So now I have 1/4 of my piece that I'm looking at. And I want to fold it into thirds. So think of like trifolds. If I were to have a trifold, fancy Miss Fun. You want to make sure that the side eyeball to make sure that this section and this section are the same. And after you fold this side, you would take the other side and make sure that they're equal, and then make your fold. So we're gonna do that same method, that trifold method, with this quarter that you see. But realistically, we've got those 4 sections, so we're gonna end up with our 12, our circle divided into 12 pieces. So you're always going to start from the center. So I put my thumb down on my center piece. And you know what? I'm going to kind of make some marks just so I can kind of eyeball. Better than eyeball. I need a section here-ish. And I need a section here-ish. And I hope they're all about the same. So I'm actually going to start over here. And my eye is on this outside piece, not on the center, because I can always coast that center down. And you're folding a lot of paper, so it's going to take a lot of like force and strength. And I'm going to push that crease down from that center section. And then I'm also going to fold this guy over. So this section right here and this section should be about the same. So as I open this fold up, this gives me a corner to put this piece in. I'm going to press, make sure it meets my corner, and voila. Like again, this one is having to be strong, like Hulk. So I'm going to open up my color wheel very carefully. And as you can see, there are all of these lovely sections that are there just by us folding it. I didn't have to use a ruler. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw these lines. So I may have to like reverse fold some of them to make sure I get that line in place. So I'm going to take my handy dandy pencil and follow the crease. This one, you may have to, like I said, kind of refold some of them to get that crease really tucked into that part of the paper. So that fourth just now became 3 little sections. And I'm going to go over here. See? And so these are actually folded the opposite direction. So if you want to come into the side of the mandala and pinch your paper to kind of reverse that fold so it's easier for us to draw in. Okay. You're going to do that for the pieces that, there we go. There we go. So here are my 12 spaces. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what's really great about a mandala is the repetition of geometric and organic shapes. We're going to end up tracing each section to make sure that they do that accordion connection. But what you are going to do is you're going to do a design in one of your pie slices. Think about all the lines you could draw, which there are hundreds and thousands of ideas coming to my brain. And you're going to just pick a few and make sure that they touch the edges of your drawing. So I'm first going to start out with, let's see, I'm going to do an upside down bunny hop line. So make sure you like what you draw. And with you guys, I would suggest to start with a pencil first. So if you draw anything you don't necessarily like, you can come back and erase it and make changes. I think I'm set. So that's going to be my first section of my mandala color wheel. You know, Miss Vaughn, I love to kind of mash up some assignments and put them together. Like when third graders made their cave paintings mashed up with the stained glass. So with this, we're mixing a little bit of culture and history into, you know, our formative learning of the color wheel and understanding of our color wheel. So the next step is going to be at the window. All right, guys, so you're next going to need a window and your mandala. You're also going to need, I would stick with a pencil, but again, I'm going to use a Sharpie so you can see it on this video. But if I make a mistake, what? There's always a way to fix it, right? Okay, so you're going to put your mandala up against the window. And you want to make sure you're drawing on the same side of the paper as your Sharpie originally was on. So what Mrs. Vaughn is going to do is actually fold my mandala backwards so that my taco has the lines that we did like my pie slices. I'm just going to turn this over. And I want to use the light coming in so that I can see my Sharpie lines, and I'm going to trace those lines onto this pie slice. Onto this section. And what's great about this is you can always move your piece of paper around to make sure you get all of those designs the way you originally drew them. And there's that. Then I'm going to kind of turn it so I can get to my bunny hop lines. Now remember, if you accidentally get Sharpie on the window, there is a way to clean it. You just need an expo marker. But we're going to try really hard not to do that in the first place. Ta-da! So now when I open up this piece, I can kind of connect my edges. And so they're mirror imaging of each other. All right, and I forgot this little guy right down here. And that way you can tell, you can kind of check yourself in case anything you've missed. So this next section, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I want to make sure I'm drawing on this side. So I'm going to fold my taco shell facing outward. Seeping through the paper, and I'm just going to make sure that I can see my drawing through the paper. Now, because we are drawing things repetitively, you may feel very confident, like I can do it and I'm gonna just go really, really fast. But because we're using Sharpie, or if you're using a pencil, you want to take your time to make sure that we're avoiding problems before they happen. So when I open my mandala, I now have four sections done, and I have 12. So what I can do is now when I fold my taco, I'm going to start with an edge, fold it for me, so that half of it has your drawing on it, correct? And then if I fold this over to the other side, I'm gonna see through my mandala and I'm gonna see through 4 sections or pie slices of that piece. So I could come in here and just trace those sections. But just to make sure that your paper is doing what it needs to, just double check that your lines that you drew for your sections match up with the lines on the back of your already drawn section. So you may have to kind of wiggle it just to make sure that they're all in the correct place, which I think I have to kind of fix one of my creases. That will keep you on check and make sure that nothing really changes. So as you're continuing to open your mandala and you're seeing that the pattern is creating almost like a kaleidoscope effect, then what you're going to do is very simple. If you just keep folding your taco on the next pie slice that you want to draw, what's going to happen is it's going to continue that pattern, and you can just double check that your last one that you have not drawn matches the pattern, is the mirror image of the one next to it, and you can kind of faintly tell, but I'm going to keep drawing so that you can see all of that. So now if I open up my mandala, I have got a lot of it taken care of. The one thing I just want to remind you guys about is any negative space that doesn't have drawing in it. If you feel like you need to incorporate something into it, then just make it consistent with all of your other pieces. So say you want to add a diamond into this shape, maybe a triangle, something like that. I want to add to it. So after you make your final touches to your mandala, go back in there and kind of clean up your pencil markings and make sure that it is as clean as you want it to be. And then if you drew with pencil, go back over it with your Sharpie and make sure that it's clean and that finesse is all taken care of. Remember, Mrs. Mom may not be right over your shoulder, but I'm always looking for awesome craftsmanship. Part 2 is going to be coming up shortly, and it's going to be discussing how we're going to turn this into our awesome color wheel. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!